Good evening. Welcome to the second broadcast from SoundMind. Our community welcomes you to our ongoing series of talks, meditations, and live performances to assist you with sustaining a sound mind. I'd like to open this evening's broadcast with a reading from Alice Walker. When the end comes. When the end comes, we realize everything we've heard about it is true. Betrayal does feel like being shot. Parting abruptly or for weird reasons does cause the heart to ache. The mind is occupied by a foreign army, undisciplined, of pain. There is nowhere to go. Inside this pain, we are too deeply inserted into it, nothing to hope for, to wait for, but time. Was it ever this slow before? Did it ever creep so casually as we began to die? But wait. I can tell you that the very slowness of time is the greatest of gifts. That is when you begin to grow yourself again from the tiny seed of self-denigration you may have discovered clinging to the hard rock of despair. The distance between the rock and you smiling unafraid again seems vast. But with time, and time alone, you will cross that ocean of broken hopes, broken dreams. You will begin to glimpse a future self, luminous. It will delight and surprise you. You will begin to understand ancient wisdom about doorways and necessary travel as you begin your journey toward your own, until now unimagined destiny, and further shore. That was a poem by Alice Walker. Je m'appelle Joshua. Bienvenue. Welcome to the SoundMind Sunday broadcast. This week, we're exploring sounds and senses of compassion. Before we begin and move on to our first performer, Jay Gandhi, I'd like to give an acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that occupation of First Nations and Indigenous lands continues today, as do ongoing denigrations and suffering due to ethnocentric oppression. In honor of these acknowledgements, I offer a bow in each direction. In east, to the south, to the west, to the north, above, and below. May the systems of injustice receive swift dismantling. May something more caring and compassionate arise in its place. And with these words of compassion, we ask you tonight to join us in connecting your heart, your hands, and our lands, so that we can turn up our interface together. Now, let's get amplified for our first performer this evening, a live performance with Bansuri Flute Phenom, Jay Gandhi.
Thank you, Josh, and what the beautiful words that you spoke. Thank you for those, and I'm very happy to be here and contribute to this this beautiful dialogue that humanity is needs to have. So let me just. So for those of you who may not know, this is the Bansuri flute, which is the bamboo flute of North India, and it's played as one of the instruments in Indian classical music, in North Indian classical music. And I'll be there. There's something in Indian classical music called the raga, and the raga is basically it literally means that which colors the mind, but it also so there are many different ragas. All they're just melodic. Um, a melodic shape and melodic form that has the intention of expressing a certain mood or feeling. So I thought for today I would, since I by myself and could do whatever I want. So I'm gonna play Alap, and which is the introductory section, very introspective section, and we'll see where it goes. It may stay within one raga, or it may move between ragas. I am not sure. We'll see. But yes. So thank you. I'm not sure how much time has passed, but thank you very much for listening. And I'll just do 2 more minutes of something different. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day and enjoy the rest of the program.
That was Jay Gandhi, the maestro, carving through music with colors. He helps us here. Jay is a founding member of the Brooklyn Raga Massive Music Collective and lives in New York City, although he has taught and performed all over the world. And we're so pleased that he was able to open for us tonight on SoundMind. I'm Josh, your host. We're so glad that you're with us. Our call and warmth to the many communities that are joining us and that we are part of, our collective of therapists, somatic practitioners, musicians, artists, thinkers. We are in June 2020, a time with a reported 7 planets in retrograde. 7. As we can see, harmony and dissonance are constantly at play in our world, as well as in our bodies. And it's an incredibly important time for all of us to tune in to our health. To help us do that, we have Dr. Fahad Khan, who is an anesthesiologist, professor of medicine at NYU, a yogi, and an acupuncturist, among many other practices. He's a passionate facilitator of preventative care, pain relief, and helping his patients just find balance in their lives. In short, he's the doctor we all wish we had. Luckily, tonight, he's here to share some of his latest insights with us. Doctor?
Coronavirus put the world on pause. It forced you to think about what you value in life. For me, it came down to 4 things: family, love, community, and health. Now, being an anesthesiologist, you might assume that my definition of health focuses on using modern medicine and science to take care of the mind and the body. But as someone who has studied wellness and spirituality through religion, yoga, sound meditation, acupuncture, and psychedelic therapy, I believe in a broader definition of health. I believe that if you combine modern medicine with wellness and science with spirituality, you can create new tools for healing the ill and bettering the well. What does this term wellness mean to you? Wellness has many definitions. Wellness has devolved into the $4.2 trillion wellness industrial complex. Exponential consumerist growth, coupled with a lack of quality control, invites comparisons to other bloated institutions. Big government, unsustainable agriculture, and profiteering pharma come to mind. Much of wellness is driven by partially alternative and integrative health. A common criticism of those fields is their use of science-ish type language. They use conflated vocabulary to sell stuff. They use buzzwords like pure or clean or natural. They promote ancient or modern remedies as a part of a cleanse to help you live longer. Often their explanations turn into a pseudo-scientific soup of words. They flirt with direct medical claims, taking care to avoid any real medical legal trouble. And they always have something to sell. Wellness is fully commercialized. Even Cosmo magazine has a wellness editor. She's admitted that wellness is used as a label to sell stuff to women. It's a sexy label for health. In recent years, trends have gone from promoting tags like Fitspo or body positivity, and now they're even diving into the world of mental health. Now, it's not all bad. Brands like Goop do introduce people to therapies they might not have considered before. In their recent series on Netflix, Goop discussed the pros and cons of psychedelic therapy. But Goop is also a brand that got fined $150,000 by the FDA for selling a jade egg to women. They encouraged women to put this egg into your vagina to heal your lunar chakra. Not everything in the wellness world is wrong, but people should be aware if something is backed with science or not. We need to bring more science into this conversation. Modern medicine is also getting involved in the world of medicine in wellness. Respected medical institutions like the Cleveland Clinic, Stanford, Harvard have all opened wellness centers. Most of the services they offer are not covered by insurance. You actually have to pay out of pocket. It's fairly lucrative for these institutions. They will admit that while all the services are not necessarily backed by science, as long as it doesn't harm you, they are willing to provide the service. Now, there's also an overall frustration with modern medicine. Doctors can and should talk to their patients about things like exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, but they usually don't. There's a frustrating distance and a lack of personal connection that's been created between patients and their doctors. The typical doctor visit has been shortened to barely a few minutes. Rather than focusing on the patient, most of that time is spent clicking checkboxes on a computer. Pharmaceutical companies have a heavy hand in modern medicine. They're incentivized to push their profit-generating medicines as first-line cures to most medical problems. Furthermore, there's a frustration with the limits of modern medicine. It can only do so much. Some doctors are only willing to go so far. How many of your doctors do you feel comfortable talking to about your orgasm? Would you go and talk to your doctor about your inability to make a breakthrough on your latest creative project? What would it be like to work with someone on some of these important aspects of your life, like your sexuality, like your creativity, using the rigorous lens of modern medical science? When you can't find a practitioner that can help, people often end up feeling invited into the world of medical and wellness conspiracies. The thing about a conspiracy is that the more you are exposed to conspiracy theories, the more those theories are going to stick. It's called the illusory truth effect. We mistake repetition for accuracy. So conspiracy theories are the wheels that churn the wellness industrial complex. Now, as I started, the power drill of modern medicine can be combined with the drill bits of wellness to examine the validity of tools that actually work. The tools of science can help shed light on the seemingly pseudoscientific wellness practices that often invoke an air of spirituality as their credibility. The scientific method was first proposed by Sir Francis Bacon in the 1500s. It was born out of a movement called empiricism. Its core principle is that in order to know something, you must be able to measure it. So the scientific method that we use today focuses on the ability to state a hypothesis or something that you believe to be true. And then you use tools to either prove or disprove the truth of that hypothesis. One of the ultimate forms of the scientific method is the placebo-controlled, double-blind, randomized controlled trial. That's the gold standard of modern medicine. You take a group of people and give half of them a drug or a therapy, give the other half some sort of controlled non-therapy, and then you measure the difference in results between these two groups. It seems simple enough. It's straightforward. It's rigorous. However, the scientific method is inadequate to measure certain types of phenomena, specifically when it comes to the realm of spirituality. Science is based around the principles of the physical world. It makes an underlying metaphysical assumption that everything is made of matter. The worldview of science is that matter makes up everything. That metaphysical assumption has a difficult time explaining concepts such as spirituality or even consciousness. Therefore, the tools that we have in science, such as the scientific method or clinical experimental trials, are imperfect models when we're trying to explain, study, validate, and even manipulate consciousness and spirituality. Let's consider a different metaphysical assumption to reality, one that does not assume physical matter to be the base building Lego block for everything. Instead of needing to see, measure, or experimentally validate what is and what isn't through science, you can instead understand concepts such as spirituality and consciousness through a lens of simply knowing. This concept of feeling a sense of understanding simply by having an intuitive feeling that you have knowledge of, it's been called different things and comes in different flavors. From ancient pre-Christianity, it was described as a school of thought known as gnosis. More recently, some have tried to explain it through the concept of the placebo effect. Now, the term placebo effect definitely can conjure up some controversy, especially when you're talking about spirituality. Some people might find the term placebo effect to even be a derogatory term, making allusion to the fact that maybe you're talking some sort of fake news. Now, I have to take a moment to stop right here and to state that I am not saying that spirituality is some type of fake news. Rather, I am wanting to juxtapose the concept of spirituality with the concept of science to develop a framework to explain a model that combines these concepts in some form of resonance. So, another lens with which to view the placebo effect is this lens of gnosis, or intuitive feeling and knowledge. The placebo effect has even been studied in modern medicine. I can tell you from my background in studying epidemiology and clinical trial design, as well as having worked on industry-sponsored clinical research with pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and medical device companies like Medtronic, the placebo effect is an important one. Its effect has to be measured and reported in the final analysis submitted to the FDA before any drug or device is approved for the market. As a physician, I actually utilize and take advantage of the placebo effect every single day when I see and treat patients. The simple act of walking into a patient's room with my white coat on enhances the placebo effect. The way in which I describe a drug or a treatment to my patient can raise or lower the volume on any potential placebo effect. What would it look like to have a model where the rigorous measurement of the scientific method can work in harmony with the intuitive feeling and knowledge championed by spirituality? What I have learned is that a unified model combining elements of science and spirituality, as well as a holistic view on mind, body, spirit, community, and environment, offers a framework that allows for regaining and amplifying resonance in this world. I grew up in a family of immigrants full of doctors. My grandfather earned a living as the village doc in India and Pakistan. He didn't just diagnose medical problems, he also ran his own alchemical dispensary of traditional and herbal medications. My father came to the US to study to become a vascular surgeon. As a kid, the discussions at our dinner table were just as likely to be focused on the risks of the latest robotic-assisted heart surgery as they were the role of turmeric as an anti-inflammatory. So I grew up wanting to become a doctor. I went to the Johns Hopkins University for college. After 4 years, I completed both a bachelor's degree and a master's in public health. Graduating with Phi Beta Kappa honors allowed me to next jump into medical school at NYU. After medical school, I pursued a residency in anesthesiology. I gained a foundational understanding of how the human brain and the human body work when we're awake, when we're asleep, and at various depths of consciousness. I followed up residency with a year of advanced fellowship training in pain medicine. I learned how to dose potentially dangerous pain medications like opioids, cannabinoids, and ketamine. So I was double board certified in 2 specialties and then offered a faculty position at the NYU School of Medicine. I started a position performing one-on-one clinical care, teaching medical students, and conducting clinical research. As I started working, I found a dissonance in what was being published in the mainstream media and the mainstream medical journals from what my patients were reporting and what my own clinical experience was showing me. I started another master's degree, this one in clinical investigation. It allowed me to develop the skills of being able to interpret, analyze, design, and communicate important medical breakthroughs to my patients. I was on an academic treadmill. This intense focus on career development made me ignore my own personal well-being. It was by luck that I then found the practice of yoga. Now, initially, I had a resistance to yoga. In my mind, yoga was something for girls to do in between picking up a pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks and getting their weekly manicure. Or it was this mysterious esoteric practice coming from the ancient mystics and gurus from India. Eventually, yoga became a regular part of my personal wellness regimen. As I started to experience and feel the benefits of spiritual connection taught by the practice, I found myself wanting to go deeper. I spent a few years in various training programs. I traveled back and forth from New York City to a former ashram in the Berkshire Mountains called Kripalu. I learned a ton about guiding spiritual inquiry while on my way to achieving 500-hour certification in yoga and meditation training. I eventually brought these practices into the fold of my clinical practice and research at NYU. I conducted a research project that was a meta-analysis looking at yoga as a treatment for low back pain. I presented the results of my study at an internationally attended conference of anesthesiologists and pain specialists. I now routinely recommend the practice to my patients. Too many people in the medical industrial complex are wrongfully cheated by the system. They are routinely pushed towards pills, prescriptions, and procedures. Some get better, others are devastated. I remember one particular patient. She was 36 years old and started to develop some nagging lower back pain. Her well-meaning primary care doctor set her up for a course of physical therapy and prescribed some anti-inflammatory medications. After a few weeks of treatment, she unfortunately developed a stomach ulcer, which required an invasive endoscopic evaluation of her esophagus and GI tract. Her gut had become too acidic. She was taken off the anti-inflammatory medication, but still being in pain, she was referred to me for an X-ray guided steroid injection. She got relief for a few months after the injection, but then returned to her primary care doctor with lingering symptoms. This time, she was prescribed a powerful opioid narcotic medication called Percocet and referred to a spine surgeon. The next treatment she underwent involved fusing her lower lumbar spine with rods and screws. During the recovery process, her surgeon had to add another powerful opioid narcotic medication, one called OxyContin, into the mix. About 6 months after her surgery, she showed up again in my clinic. She was still in pain, now with rods and screws in her back. On top of that, she was also now addicted to both OxyContin and Percocet, suffering from constipation and simply seeking help. modern medicine and science had failed her and many of my other patients. I continued looking for alternative options outside of the medical industrial complex. I enrolled in a 1-year-long medical acupuncture training program at Harvard Medical School. More recently, I have been a student at an institution founded by Alan Watts. The school is called the California Institute of Integral Studies. Clinicians and researchers from the Johns Hopkins University, NYU, MAPS, the Usona Institute, and various indigenous lineages all come together to teach the principles of psychedelic-assisted therapy. My path to discovering how modern medicine can mix with wellness has been a winding one. I remain fascinated by how science can find resonance with spirituality. I believe that if you combine modern medicine with wellness and science with spirituality, you can create new tools for healing the ill and bettering the well. To us as a community, I leave you with this question. How do we continue to find future resonance with the diversity of tools that are at our disposal? Thank you.
Fahad, Dr. Khan, thank you so much. It was very informative. I'm wondering,
Thanks, Josh.
there's so much that we could talk about. So I want to start though with this notion of syncretic medicine. And what's your understanding of syncretic medicine, and how might the term apply to your practice or practices?
I have to tell you, I haven't heard the term before that. Syncretic medicine. Please tell me.
Well, my understanding is that it's when we bring together a range of different practices into something new that creates a new framework, as you were speaking to in your video just now. So I'm wondering then maybe how are you looking at that bigger framework right now?
Yeah, I think I hadn't heard the term. It's an interesting term, but I think what it refers to is that there was a lot of talk in the last few decades of expanding the typical physical or biological model with which we look at the body and we look at healing. And people talked about expanding to a biopsychosocial model and became really popular in the 1970s and 1980s. And I learned about that model mainly when in medical school, as well as my fellowship in pain medicine. Upon graduating and learning some of these more, spiritual practices, such as yoga, meditation, psychedelic therapy, sound meditation, I think that biopsychosocial model is also incomplete. I think that a more holistic model actually looks at the mind, it looks at the body, it looks at the spirit, it incorporates community, and it finds ways to integrate environment as well. And I think that's a much more sort of holistic and complete framework with which we have to sort of move the practice of medicine and healing in general.
So maybe you can speak a little bit to how, when you encounter diagnoses, you apply these different influences. For instance, if someone was coming to you with a problem of circulation in the body, perhaps.
Sure. First things first is that taking a good history, being a good listener is the most important part. Understanding that true healing comes from the person. So regardless of what I diagnose or what treatments I give, if the person doesn't follow through, anything that I try or diagnose or give them, it's probably not going to work. So that's the first thing, is meeting people where they are, using the language that they're comfortable with. So, a circulatory problem for some perhaps maybe I'm sending a patient for an ultrasound Doppler exam, or I'm checking their blood pressure, checking their pulse. Using a separate model, perhaps the medical acupuncture model, maybe I'm looking at different traditional Chinese or Japanese medical models, looking at the oketsu system, the immune system, the adrenal system, from a separate type of background, maybe from the yogic or the meditative background. We're sort of focusing on what is the person eating, how is the person sleeping, what is their social function like. So I think it depends on listening first, then diagnosing, meeting the patient where they are, and using a unique combination for each person.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It seems like basically you've expanded your palette of medical tools and medical reference points, which makes for much more subtle treatment. I'm wondering, what are some of the medical... Oh, go ahead.
No, what I wanted to say is yes. I've been on a long road. I guess I've been a bit addicted to school and training, as I talked about. But I think that one of the things that's lacking is that as an individual, you can obviously only learn so much, and we practice medicine, or we practice therapy, or we practice healing in these silos. And what we need to do is figure out a better model that's a more collective model. So healing through community. And each of us comes with our own unique inner healing methods and therapies that we know. But also we learn different things along our path, and different things work for different people. So if there could be a model that's more of a collective, a co-healing collective type of model, I think that has a lot of potential to change the game for people that are just looking to heal, or people that are looking not only to heal, but people are looking for something more, like transcendence.
Sure. Which, of course, has been reported in a lot of the research trials with some of the psychedelic substances recently. That sense of transcendence, that kind of experience that rates very highly up with marriage or having a child, those kinds of transcendent experiences. Is that something that you feel needs to be kind of commonplace or normalized in people's lifespans? Or is it something that remains compartmentalized for special, unique purposes?
Man, that's a fantastic question. The psychedelic movement was big in the 1960s, and then everything was shut down in 1970 with the Controlled Substances Act that Richard Nixon passed. We are coming to another renaissance in the psychedelic world, and a lot of these substances. What was that?
The post-MAPS age, I should say. Yeah.
Yes. And I think one of the things that the community has learned is that we need to be really careful with how we study and how we bring to people these substances. And I think that the real focus has been on bringing a science-based approach, an evidence-based approach to figuring out what these things work for. And medicine lends itself well to that model, and that's the medicalization model. Now, there's other models that have been proposed that people are pushing for. Another model is just all-out legalization, in making these substances commercially available, so that perhaps there is some sort of supplement market that, like there is now with THC and CBD and supplements. There's a lot of problems with that model. There's another model, regulatory framework that focuses on decriminalization of these substances as well too. So there's a lot of nuance to discussing the legalization versus decriminalization versus medicalization, and we have to be really careful as to how we move forward, because yes, to go back to your question, I do think that there is a role medically, in PTSD, in depression, in OCD, and anxiety, but I think that there could be a greater role, not just in performance enhancement, but yeah, these concepts of self-actualization, of transcendence, of exploring consciousness. But we do have to be cautious, smart, and careful about how we move forward.
Yes, absolutely. Beyond psychedelics, are there other medical breakthroughs that you're particularly paying close attention to?
I think psychedelics are the main one. I think that the real excitement is going to come from coupling. So, what happens when you do psychedelic therapy, but you combine it with sound meditation? No one has really studied that from a medical perspective yet. What happens when you combine medical wellness with IV vitamin therapy, a proper nutrition program, proper therapy sessions, meditation training for an individual? What happens when you combine that with an ayahuasca ceremony? So I think that the results of adding these evidence-based individual therapies together are not going to be additive. I think it's going to be a multiplicative or an exponential effect.
Yes, that's very exciting for me and essentializes the kind of syncretic framework I feel like is the discussion here. In terms of, for instance, there's a lot in somatic practices. I'm not sure if you're familiar with continuum, but it's a movement practice that is, it's almost like a slow spiraling yoga at the bottom of the ocean, but it was created out of um, traditional movements and provides another kind of pathway during transcendent experiences, psychedelic experiences that can amplify or multiply the healing benefits, the transcendent benefits, like sound or meditation. I also wonder, are you encountering a lot of work that is aiming to connect people with nature more often or in new ways? Forest bathing, perhaps.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Not enough. Not enough. I practice in New York City, so getting to nature is a challenge.
We got to
But
bring
personally,
the nature to to the city.
we need to bring the nature to the city. Absolutely. My wife loves plants, and if I could show you my apartment, there's like trees and all sorts of things that she's got in here. But it helps. It helps not only just to clear the oxygen, but on a spiritual level, it does bring another life energy into our space. So for sure, personally, I've had fantastic experience with bringing nature into my life, and it would be naive to think that nature doesn't have an effect on healing. And I think what's lacking is that integration. There is a concept of something that we are working on, of having a new cutting edge type of center, something that can house all of these different modalities in a local place here in New York. But it also has a component somewhere, perhaps upstate New York, Hudson Valley, where, you can go and have a weekend and do things like forest bathing, do things like horseback riding, do some more meditative nature walks. Combine that eventually also with, an international type of center as well, perhaps somewhere in the Yucatan Peninsula or in the Sierra Nevada mountain range of Colombia. And take advantage of some of the therapies and the modalities that are indigenous to those places. So combining all of that together.
This to me sounds almost like a new kind of, and forgive me because I'm not trying to invoke the wellness industrial complex, but a new kind of lifestyle of health where you have a different rhythm, a seasonal rhythm where you're moving between urban, mountain spaces, traditional spaces, Western spaces, where you're moving between these different environments. You're not getting stuck as much, perhaps. There's actually quite a collective sense of circulation in what you're saying. I like this sense of integration. I do have to ask.
It's so
No, go ahead.
exciting, and it's such an exciting time right now because not only is it combining, the different places, but I think also being in 2020, realizing what happened with the coronavirus, I have done so much telemedicine the past several weeks now. I think that it's not only combining these different environments, these different places, these different modalities. Also, what we have to do is figure out how to combine technology on top of this stuff, and that will be, I think, a game changer for so much, bringing technology into all of this as well.
Yes, the augmented sense of integrating how we connect through these different technologies. But then I'm sure there are other people who are listening and thinking, my goodness, what about the screens? What about the screens, doctor? Does that mean we're constantly having to reach through screens in order to connect in this post-pandemic world?
Figuring out the way to integrate that is going to be key. There's the downsides of screens, which I'm not going to go into because probably every single person listening already knows that. But what are the positives of screens? The positives are that I see you for a therapy, and now we want to integrate, and we want to keep a little bit of accountability with the integration. If I can just log on quickly onto a Skype telemedicine session with you, maybe once or twice in that week following, schedule something for another 2 weeks out, where you could be in another country or you could be on the other side of the country, and we can still then check in for a quick visit and see, hey, have you been keeping up with the meditation? Hey, what insights did you pull from that last session? How are you applying those into your daily life? I think those are some of the real key advantages and benefits where technology can be weaved in a conscious way.
Yes, for sure. The convenience of it, the consistency of it can really make a big difference after a big experience in a psychedelic session, when you're able to follow up with a patient or a client for weeks or months afterwards and really build in the integration of those lessons into their daily life, their daily practices. I do have to ask, you brought up the Yucatan. What was it that recently sent you there?
I do go down there quite a bit. Down to my wife is from Colombia, so we spend a decent amount of time there, visiting my in-laws in Cartagena, in Bogota, in the Sierra Nevadas. And my wife and I actually love Mexico quite a bit. We met in Tulum, and Tulum has a very special place for me personally, but for the both of us. We threw one of our wedding celebrations in a town called Careyes, which is on the Pacific coast of Mexico. So Mexico has a special place in our heart, and I'm also fascinated by a lot of the the healing modalities that come from those places, like temescal, cacao, peyote, yahe. There's a lot to be learned by things that have been indigenous to those areas for thousands of years. Man, the Amazon is still so full and so unexplored. One of the medications we use in the operating room every single day, neuromuscular blockers to keep people from not moving when they're under general anesthesia, that came from curare. The Amanita muscaria mushroom, where yes, we find psychedelic substance from that, but that was also led to the discovery of nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. Belladonna helped us produce opioids. So nature and that region of the world have given us a lot of discovery. So there is this magical, mystical, I think, just connection that, and me and my wife personally have to that place as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, so much to learn. Fantastic tools is not the right word, but so much to bring into and back to New York. So that's very exciting. I'm curious. I have this question about anesthesiology, about when in general anesthetics, there's this big question in the consciousness community about what's going on there in the brain, when what's dropping out, it's fascinating to me because generally, even when we're asleep, our consciousness maintains some sense of coherence. Our sensory apparatus don't shut down. But in anesthesiology, there is a different kind of easing off of the senses as well as a break from kind of time.
Yeah, it's, one of the, it's maybe my most fascinating mystery of all of medicine is that I'm an anesthesiologist. I have to tell you, I don't know how general anesthesia works. Doctors do not know how general anesthesia works. That's crazy. We've had it around for over 100 years. We use it millions of times a day to safely perform surgery, and yet we still struggle to figure out the molecular mechanism behind how it works. What's really interesting is actually a study that was just published 2 days ago. It's great that we're talking about this. 2 days ago, there was a study that came out of the Scripps Institute, and these researchers basically discovered that the reason why how general anesthetics works is related to their lipids. And what they do in the brain is that they help form these lipid rafts. And in forming these lipid rafts, there are specific molecules that are then released. These molecules, if I remember correctly, one of them works specifically on potassium channels. And I apologize if I'm getting too technical, but basically what it does, by working on those potassium channels, it stops certain neurons for firing. So this is a brand new discovery that these lipid rafts release these chemicals then inhibit neurons from firing, and that disrupts some of the normal electrical brain activity that then helps put you to sleep. I mean, this is a discovery that's going to help us think more not only about general anesthesia, but also probably about how we fall asleep, how we stay asleep. And furthermore, I think it's going to give us some more insights into just consciousness in general. So really exciting, but man, what a mystery of modern medicine is that as an anesthesiologist, I can't tell you how general anesthesia works. That's so crazy.
And yet you've observed probably thousands of times the effects taking hold as well as their relief when they come back. So that must be amazing. It almost must be a kind of a very subtle form of hospice care as you're taking patients in and out of consciousness like that. It's really a beautiful thing.
It is wild. And man, after I started training in yoga and meditation, psychedelic therapy, I started to see the overlap in shamanism. I mean, anesthesiology is at its core is applied pharmacology. We are taking drugs that are poisons that were originally found in nature. We have since figured out what are the active components, and we can synthesize them. If you give too little, there's not enough of an effect. If you give too much, they can be fatal. You can kill someone. And man, that's like shamanism. So every single day, every single patient, you're playing with the edge here. You give too little, like someone could be awake during a surgery. You give too much, you could potentially stop their heart or dissociate their brain from their body. So I feel privileged. I feel so lucky to be able to work in something that is so fascinating, so cool, yet so utterly mysterious.
Mm. And what the pharmacology aspect, the Western medical aspect provides us is this rich, deep tradition and case study of trial and error, which is preserved, and we know how so you can apply it very, very acutely per each patient. But also in the shamanistic realm, we have the intuitive, the dream, the symbolic, the mimetic. I'm wondering, it's actually a strange question. I'm wondering where does trauma live across these two, the kind of shamanistic and the Western pharmacological approach? Trauma lives in the body, but also in the soul, in the spirit, Some researchers have even said it exists in a field, both outside of the body that we pass through or move within. So along with memory as well, but trauma is a form of memory. And I'm wondering, have you encountered this? Yeah.
So I think it's, you can look at trauma through different paradigms, and I think you've done a fantastic job of sort of setting up how you can look at it through that sort of shamanistic or intuitive kind of lens, where it exists in this field. That field can then interact with your body, your physical body, and there can be literally places that can in the yogic tradition in Sanskrit, they call it granthis, that are knots. And nadis are the energy channels in your body, and you have to work through these physical knots to then allow the nadis to allow energy to flow through the body. So physically, working through yoga and massage, things like that can help, and that's one way to look at it. Now, the other way to look at trauma, or the other lens, is that medical lens, is where in our memory systems, where in the temporal lobe do these traumatic memories live, and can we go in and explore them and to help unravel them. I think some of the most interesting work in trauma, and how trauma gets passed on from one generation to the next, as a part of intergenerational trauma in certain races or certain populations of people. We're starting to find that there's this phenomenon called epigenetics, and where a traumatic situation, like the Holocaust, for instance, or slavery, trauma can get passed through the genome through changes that happen at the DNA level, and can then get passed on to subsequent generations. So, I think you can look at trauma through different lenses to try to describe it. And one of the most interesting things, as far as if we take the conversation to treatment, is what's happening with MDMA and MAPS, which is the nonprofit association that's looking to get approval, FDA approval for MDMA as a treatment specifically for PTSD, just had such robust results in their last set of clinical trials that the FDA gave them special allowance, which they rarely do, to actually fast track the rest of their trials. So that bodes pretty well for something like trauma, specifically PTSD, having another tool with which to treat it, which would be MDMA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really exciting time. And we have a question about, I think this is implicit almost in what you've been saying, but we have a question from our live feed about when will these practices be formally recognized and acknowledged beyond, you're talking about how you're bringing in so many different practices. So I wonder, is it already here? Are we already in this moment of recognition?
Absolutely. I would say yes. I mean, I have patients that come to see me every single day in my pain clinic that ask me about yoga, that ask me about meditation, that ask me about acupuncture. It's just a matter of time until my chronic pain patients start asking me about psychedelic therapy, which actually I don't think anyone is really looking at yet, at least as far as I know. So that's going to be a really interesting frontier that has not yet been looked at. That's super exciting. So those things are here, and I think it depends. To answer that question, it really depends on the audience, right? Like, there's many of us, especially living in a place like New York City, that's maybe a more woke crowd. Yoga. We do yoga. We meditate. We use Sam Harris's app, and that's normal for people. There's other people that need to see a scientific study showing that this stuff is, number one, safe, and number two, effective. There's some people that just need the doctor to put on the white coat and to tell them that, yeah, this stuff works. And I feel lucky and I feel privileged to be kind of working at that intersection, because I do believe that these are the things that we need, and these are the things that help a lot of people, and that's what I want. I want to try to bring that to a larger community.
Yeah, I can't wait to see when your clinic in full in its different locations is set up and running and functioning fluidly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really warm, enlightening, and informative conversation, Dr. Fahad Khan. We really appreciate you joining us on SoundMind.
Thanks, Josh, and thanks, everyone.
Today, we are all too familiar with the many forms of the theater of cruelty, which stream through our screens from our society and media. Yet, just beneath the surface of our screens, a deeper reality awaits us, the theater of compassion. Here to help us explore and integrate our mind, body, and spirit through the 7 senses of the chakras is Dr. Erica Matlock.
Hello, everyone. So now we're going to move into a bit more of an experiential part of the evening. And I am going to spend just a little bit of time explaining what we're going to do. And I encourage you, while you're listening to me, to find a comfortable place to sit if you need to move around to make that happen. Ideally, we'll all be sitting with our spines straight, but if it's more comfortable for you to lie down to do a little practice, that's fine as well. So go ahead and make your way to a place where you want to drop into a state of relaxation. And I'll just give you a little bit of like a background on what we're going to do tonight. So the work that I'm going to share is part of a holistic framework called 7 Senses. And I'm very interested in transformation and actually taking a very holistic approach to transformation. So what that means for me is that we work with the body, we work with the emotions, we work with the mind, and we work with the spirit in order to create a holistic experience. And really, until our psychological process is in the body, until it's embodied, transformation can't really take place. And so the work that I do is all about that. It's all about having experiences where we touch all 4 quadrants of self and get them all pointed in the same direction so we can create really unstoppable change. And so we don't have a ton of time tonight, so I'm just going to sort of give you a little taste. And the way that I work with the body holistically, or not just the body, but the entire self, is through the themes of the 7 chakras. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take a little journey from the root, the first energy center, up to the heart, the center of compassion. And as we all know, compassion is something that we could really use a lot of right now. So hopefully as we practice together, we'll also be making a nice contribution to the collective field. Okay, so here we go. So I invite you all to find your space, get comfortable if you're not already, and just let the eyes close. Just take a brief scan through the body and notice if you need to move anything or adjust anything to be comfortable for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And if you're not sure, just try shrugging your shoulders up to your ears and giving them a little shake. And just moving the spine around a little bit. And then just begin to turn your attention to the breath. So letting the body be still now. There's no more movement in the body. But finding some movement through the breath, taking a nice deep inhale through the nose, holding the breath at the top, and then taking an exhale through the nose and letting it all go. We'll take a few more of those together. Inhaling in through the nose, and on the inhale, calling all of your own energy back from anywhere it may have been scattered today. Holding the breath at the top, letting yourself fill with your own energy, your own essence. Retaining the breath, and then on the exhale, letting go of any distractions, any thoughts, anything you don't need right now. Again, inhaling in through the nose, calling back all of your own essence, holding the breath at the top, feeling all that energy fill your body, fill the area around your body. And then exhale, letting go of any distractions, anything you don't need right now. And then just let the breath move on autopilot, just in and out of the nose, letting it be easy and natural. And just begin by bringing your attention and your awareness to your feet. On your next inhale, engage all of the muscles of your feet, holding them tight for 3, 2, 1, and on your exhale, completely relax all of the muscles of your feet, letting the tension drain away. Next, bring your attention up to your thighs and your hamstrings. On your inhale, tighten up and engage all of those muscles of the upper legs, the thighs, clenching them for 3, 2, 1, and on the exhale, just relax, release all of those muscles, and feel the tension drain down your legs. On your next inhale, bringing your attention up to the area around your pelvis, the muscles of the pelvic floor, the abdomen, the anus, all at once. On your inhale, engaging all of these muscles, really tightening up that core of your being for 3, 2, 1, and on the exhale, just relax all of these muscles, letting the tension drain away, and just noticing the difference between that sensation of tension and the sensation of relaxation. Next, bring your attention to your arms, and on your inhale, make some fists. Tighten up your arms, pull them into your body, and engage all of those muscles of your arms for 3, 2, 1, and on the exhale, just release all of the muscles of your arms and let the tension drain down your arms. Bring the attention up into the shoulders, and on your inhale, shrug those shoulders all the way up to your ears, engaging them, tightening up all of the muscles of the neck and the shoulders for 3, 2, 1, and on your exhale, just let it go. Release the shoulders and let all the tension drain down your arms, down your torso, your pelvis, your thighs, your legs, your feet. Next, bringing your attention to the muscles of your face. On your inhale, clench up all of the muscles of your face, clenching your eyes shut, tightening your jaw for 3, 2, 1. And on your exhale, just relax and release all of the muscles of your face. Feeling that deep wave of relaxation just spread through your entire body and let it ripple to the area around you. As you actively relax your muscles, you send a signal to your brain that you're safe. You're safe, you're protected, you're secure. And as you drop into this sense of safety, turning on the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and digest or feed and breathe, we begin to access the energy of the root chakra. Bring your attention to the base of your spine, really feeling the part of your body that contacts the surface beneath you. The eyes are still closed, and I invite you to visualize the image of a trunk of a tree. Visualize that trunk extending down from the base of your spine as an extension of your spine, and then visualize the roots of the trunk extending deep and wide below you to the side. Watch those roots as they pierce the ground beneath you, and follow them with your imagination deep into the center of the earth. The more you focus your attention and your intention on these roots, the stronger this foundation in the root chakra becomes. The sense of safety, the journey from fear to trust, the knowing that it is safe to be yourself in the world. And as you send those roots deeper and wider, pull your belly in just slightly and allow your spine to lengthen, getting taller. Notice if your neck is long. Maybe take a gentle nod with your chin, checking to make sure your chin is parallel with the ground. Feeling both grounded and lifted at the same time. Next, I invite you to bring your attention to the muscles of the pelvic floor. And I invite you to begin gently contracting and releasing the muscles of the pelvic floor. Tightening, releasing, just gently. Tightening, releasing, and beginning to feel the sensation as it extends up into your pelvis. Maybe you even feel the extension of these contractions in your lower abdomen. Keeping the eyes closed and focusing all your attention on this gentle movement, slight contraction and release of the muscles of your pelvic floor. And now I invite you to work just a little bit harder, contracting a little bit harder, and let the contraction really bring your attention to the area around your pelvis. And then on your next contraction, I will invite you to contract harder than all the rest and hold the muscles in. Inhale the breath, hold the breath at the top of the inhale, and send all of your attention, your gaze, down into the area around your pelvis. And be still here. connecting in with the energy of the sacral chakra. You're using these gentle pulsations to generate life force and pull it up into the pelvic region. When you need to, exhale the breath and release the muscles. And we'll do another round here. So begin with the pulsations, contracting, release, contracting, release. Only the muscles of the pelvic floor, noticing if you can isolate them. And then on your next contraction, make it the strongest, hardest contraction yet, and hold the contraction as you inhale the breath, retaining the breath, and sending all of your attention to the area around your pelvis. Noticing if this feels uncomfortable, and allowing yourself to just sit with the discomfort of generating force, generating prana, and holding it in this lower center. Hold just another few seconds. And then exhale the breath, release the muscles. Relax the muscles. Let the breath return to natural. Remembering the roots of the tree, keeping you safe, keeping you grounded as you move into the discomfort of the sacral. As we move into the energy of the sacral chakra, there's a desire to wiggle out of discomfort. This is all about moving toward pleasure and away from pain. And our work here is to find stillness in the discomfort. So again, now we'll begin with that pumping sensation. And this time I invite you to engage the muscles of the anus, the muscles of the pelvic floor, and maybe even the muscles of the lower abdomen, and really pump. The eyes are still closed, pumping those muscles hard, pumping longer than you want to, pumping even though it's uncomfortable. And you're pumping hard enough this time to send the energy up into the solar plexus, the area just behind the belly. So keep pumping, and in a moment I'll guide you to contract all of those muscles as hard as possible. Inhale the breath and pull the energy up into the belly. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Contract all of the muscles of the lower triangle. Inhale the breath. Hold the breath at the top, but relax the shoulders. And bring all of your attention to the area around the belly. Visualize a fire in the belly. And as you hold your attention there, start to notice if you can feel the temperature around the belly rising. You're creating heat with the muscles of the pelvic floor and the anus and the lower abdomen. You're lighting the fire, and let those flames rise up into the belly. Exhale the breath when you need to, and release all the energy, all the breath, the muscles. And we'll go again, pumping all of the muscles of that lower triangle. For 20 seconds here, really work them. Work hard. Notice the discomfort and keep going. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and hold. Contract all of those muscles. Inhale the breath. Hold the breath at the top of the inhale, but send your gaze and all of your attention to the area around the belly. Feel the fire. Feel the flames. Use your imagination to visualize that fire. Keep your attention on the fire, but exhale the breath with control. Release the muscles. And place one hand on the belly and just feel that fire of transformation in the solar plexus. And I invite you to consider all of the things that you judge yourself harshly for, your vulnerabilities, your perfectionist tendencies, all of the things that hold you back from your unlimited potential. Those that you're aware of, maybe just choose 3. And once you have those thought forms, just place them in the fire and watch them melt away. Let them turn into ashes and flames. And follow that fire up into the heart. Move your hand, the other hand, up to your heart. So now we have one hand on the belly, the solar plexus, one hand on the heart. This distance between your hands, this is the distance of the soul's journey from the solar plexus, the love of power, to the heart, the power of love. And I invite you to start deepening the breath and feeling the breath fill the chest, fill the belly, and let the cool breeze of your breath begin to put out the fire as you move into the space of the heart. Your heart has the great ability to take in all of the suffering of the world and exhale compassion, exhale bliss, and exhale joy. So first I invite you to consider any of your own suffering, whatever you're currently struggling with right now. Visualize it, feel it, think it, and on your inhale, let it come in through your heart and feel your suffering as it fills the area around your heart. It's as if you can feel it under your palm. Hold the breath at the top as you sit in this discomfort of suffering. And breathe out all of your joy, all of your bliss, all of your ecstasy. Breathe out what you're grateful for. Return that to the collective field. Next, I invite you to consider those that are close to you, maybe family, friends, colleagues, people you know who have lost their jobs or their health in recent times. Inhale in all of their suffering. Hold the breath at the top and just let the suffering and the pain fill your heart. Let your heart hold it, knowing that your heart is that big. As you take in the suffering of others, visualize the field around your heart extending wider, in front and behind you. And on your exhale, send out all of your joy, your love, your gratitude, your compassion. And next, I want you to imagine the suffering of all beings in the world, from our human brothers and sisters, to animals, to the earth, to the cosmos, all consciousness. And let this inhale be the biggest inhale yet, and inhale in all of the suffering of all beings everywhere. And let that field around you extend farther and farther in every direction. Hold the breath at the top and let your heart take it in. Let your heart transmute the suffering. As you exhale out your deepest breath yet, sending all of your love, your joy, your bliss, your ecstasy, sending it all out of your heart. Keeping the eyes closed and just visualizing a celestial body, maybe a star or a planet, and visualize the light from that celestial body coming in through the crown of your head, piercing your head and moving down into your heart. Let this cosmic energy just fill your heart completely, connecting in with your spiritual nature. And remember those roots grounding you into the earth, and pull up that deep earth, animalistic nature, planting you into the ground. And just feel those roots as they tug, keeping you grounded with a solid foundation on the earth. And feel that energy as it runs up through the soles of your feet, up your lower legs, turning a corner at your knees, coming up your thighs and pelvis, and abdomen and chest. And let that earth energy meet that cosmic energy in your heart. And just visualize those two essences swirling together, creating a spin that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, surrounding you and protecting you. This is where your ecstasy and your bliss meet your suffering and your shadow. May we all live from here. Together, let's inhale one more time, deep in through the nose, holding in all that suffering of all beings everywhere and just letting it infuse into this spiral energy in the heart. And exhaling out your human essence, your care, your compassion. Dropping the hands and keeping the eyes closed for a few more moments. And just noticing how you feel. Noticing where your energy is. And then whenever you are ready, opening your eyes and coming back to this community, this live stream, these faces. Thank you all so much for joining me. Have a beautiful evening. Good night.
Thank you so much, Erica. It was a really fulfilling journey. Now, we'll turn our attention and intentions to vocalist Elian Zach, who has made it her life's mission to help people connect with the inner dimensions using two tools older than humankind itself, sound and breath. She and her husband are co-founders of the uber-popular New York City yoga and meditation hideaway, the Womb Center. And they're here performing for us now. Eliane?
Hi, I'm Eliane, and I'm honored to seal this beautiful evening and to serve the community together with the ResonantMind Collective, especially in this very powerful, special time in history. I will guide you through about 20 minutes of relaxation, breath work, and vocal toning, and I encourage you to go about it as naturally as you wish to, as naturally as you can. Whether it is a deep exploration and experimentation with your own instrument through the body, through the voice, or taking on the role of deep listener, engaging in that kind of way, in stillness. I recommend that you find a quiet space, perhaps a little dark, and have a blindfold, an eye mask, a scarf to cover your eyes, as well as a pair of earbuds, headphones. You can either find an upright seated position on a chair or a cushion, or you can also lay down and just be comfortable, feel supported in whichever position you choose. And take a few moments to settle in. When you arrive in your space, close your eyes with your blindfold on. And for a moment, encourage a sensation of full tension, starting with the body, activating the muscles of the hands, the feet, the legs and the arms, the butt, the belly, the jaw, the lips, the eyes. Tighten everything completely. And perhaps this tightening will stir up more areas of tension that are not necessarily physical, bringing up to the surface any negativity, any pain, any discomfort. Any thoughts that might weigh heavy, any patterns of behavior, any guilt or shame, feelings of loneliness, anger, frustration, together with the physical sensation of tension in the body. Allow those that are present within you on mental and emotional levels to intensify as well, bringing them completely to the surface. And into the sensation of tension, take a deep inhalation and find the height of tension at the top of the inhale. As you exhale out of the mouth, release, drop, and surrender all of these completely as you drop the body and dissolve into gravity. Observe yourself now after this quick exercise of polarity. What came up? What you might be working with this evening. Invite your awareness to your breath. Without changing anything about it, just notice its natural tendency at this time? Where does it want to go? What would it like to do? Without judgment or expectation, just notice. Add a slight constriction to the back of the throat, finding a sonic, audible quality to the breath, an oceanic whisper that connects the natural act of breathing to your hearing. Bridging a gap of two seemingly separate aspects of the self. By that inviting, your listening to begin. Lengthen the breath in, and lengthen and slow down the breath out, allowing the breath to be warming, and with full intention, send it to where you need it most. Use your imagination as you navigate the breath now, and with complete awareness to the areas that require more spaciousness. Allow the oceanic quality of the breath to soothe and serve as a reminder of our interconnectedness to nature. Invite a deep inhalation through the nose. Hold it at the very top. Soften into the holding. Allow the tongue to be silent, the jaw unclenched. And exhale slowly out of the nose, all the way to the very bottom. And hold yourself completely empty for a moment at the bottom of the exhale. And notice the potential that is emptiness. You can now choose what you'd like to fill yourself up with. And on your next inhale, choose something that you need and inhale it in. All the way to the very top. Sneak in another sip of that in. And hold. Hold with ease and softness. Dissolve into the areas where you can, with trust. And exhale out of the nose, all the way to the very bottom. We'll count the breath this time. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take a deep breath in, into the pit of the belly, into the rib cage, into the heart space, all the way up to the center of the brain, and hold yourself full. At the peak, sneak in another, another, and another, and hold. Hold with ease and softness. Dissolve into the holding of the breath as if you could hold it forever. And this time, exhale out of the mouth with a bit of a sigh. And in the depth of insight, that is the bottom of the exhale, remain empty, vacant, available. And we shift the pattern. Inhale for 1, 2, hold. Inhale for 3, 4, hold. Inhale for 5, 6, hold. Exhale for 1, 2, hold. Exhale for 3, 4, hold. Exhale for 5, 6, hold. Inhale 1, 2. Inhale 3, 4. Inhale 5, 6. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take a deep breath in to the belly, rib cage, heart space, all the way up to the center of the brain. Sneak in another, another, and all the way up to the crown of the head, another, and hold with ease, with softness. And exhale out of the mouth. Return to your natural pattern of breath, observing the body. Observing the mind, observing your emotional state. transition between vowels. Send out into the world. first through tissue and bone and let it slowly, naturally fade away on its own. Receive a slow, deep inhalation from the nose. Fill yourself up from the bottom of your feet, all the way up to the crown of the head. Hold yourself full and stay for a moment. Exhale completely out of the mouth. Invite tiny movements into your body through fingers and toes, the features of the face. Invite the hands to your body, perhaps left hand on heart, right hand on belly. Feel. If you're laying down, you can roll over to one side for a moment and find a fetal position as you transition. If you're sitting up, stay seated with your eyes closed. If you'd like to slowly transition into a seat, please do so with care. As you arrive into your seat, allow the eyes to remain closed as you remove the blindfold from your eyes. Give yourself permission to stay with any insight. Whenever you feel ready, you can flutter your eyes open. I thank you for your presence, for your breath, and for your sound. Thank you.
Our gratitude to you, Elian, for your presence and guidance. Well, my friends, here we are at the end. The end of oppression, injustice, brutality, and violence over our lands, our hands, and our hearts, where history has assumed a debt that has never been paid. This revelation, when it surfaced, could to some carry the power to transform a gesture into a sign, a joke into a bomb. The free spirit had never been completely suppressed. The idea that a tiny group could collapse secular authority by intensifying the mysticism secretly contained in the secular realm, a mysticism now imprinted in commodities and representations in money and in art. This was the freedom to prove that society was only a construct and fate only a swindle. That a new world was no less likely than the old. That given the right weather, the right light, the right words, the right actors, the right theater, all social life, every institution and habit might fall to ruin as swiftly and as finally as any empire celebrated since time's invention. They were, in fact, bent on a freedom so astonishing and unqualified that it amounted to a total disruption of every kind of restraint and limitation. A freedom that could only be known as resonance. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Sound Mind. We'll be back in 2 weeks. See you upstream.